to San Francisco. Bienvenidos a San Francisco. I think San Francisco is feeling the burn. What do you think? Is San Francisco feeling the burn? My name is David Campos. I want to say, because I've been getting a lot of criticism from folks that I would be here as the chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. I want to say that I'm here in my personal capacity, but I am proud to say that this San Franciscan will be voting for Bernie Sanders for the next president.
So I've been an activist for quite some time. As a child, I marched against the Tiananmen Square massacre. As a college student, I marched against the Iraq War. And I marched for climate action. As an adult, I marched for democracy in Hong Kong, especially during the Umbrella Movement in 2014. But it wasn't until Senator Bernie Sanders announced his candidacy for president in 2015 that I became an organizer. My husband and I started these disco dance parties called Burn Baby Burn, that some of you might have gone to. And one thing led to another, and we started organizing volunteers to knock on doors for Bernie. But after the California primary was over in 2016, we were of course quite disappointed. But we met so many volunteers with such energy that we couldn't let the organizing stop.
I just got a copy of my own copy of the Mueller report. Unredacted, it says, fuck Trump, vote for Bernie. Right? Cut to the chase. I relate to Bernie because here in San Francisco was a great laboratory for me as an activist and as an elected official. We really do nurture social justice. We really do believe in democratic socialism. We've had obstacles put in our way. But we worked our way around it, and we've elected such great people as David Campos. What a story. I was in Sacramento in the assembly. I called that Jurassic Park because there were so many dinos, Democrats in name only. Time to walk the plank, boys and girls. And binary. I like Bernie because he's addressed an issue that I've always felt was important, and that is the issue of the disabled community. They're so tired of being pushed aside. They're so tired of always fighting for us on the left, but they don't have a place at the table. Well, let's give them one and make sure it's ADA accessible.
Congresswoman Barbara Jordan once said, what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. We want an America where it's not a crime to be poor. We want an America that has a comprehensive, humane immigration system. We want an America that understands to be a woman in this country, ERA, respected. We want a country that does not criminalize just because of the color of someone's skin, i.e. African American men and women and Hispanic men and women in this country in a prison system. That is unfair. What the people want is simple. We want no more private prisons in the United States of America. We should be able to make a profit off of other folks' misery. What the people want is simple. We want an America where everyone will have the opportunity to seize opportunity. Now, San emphasis on what we need you. And all of the thousands of folks here today, I need you to send this message out, because somehow someone in the media not telling the story. So I need you to tell the story. If you have not signed up for BernieSanders.com, we got over 1 million folks. All of you here are 1 in a million. We need some more ones to put in that million. If you have not signed up, I need you to sign up for the ministry. Because the only way that we're going to win this election is because of people like you. When we leave here, after we are feeling each other's energy, we got to get out there and do the work that it is going to take. Because we're going to have to fight Wall Street. Neoliberals.
Especially this president is above the law. Now, I'm delighted to be here in California. This is our first trip here in this campaign. And I want to say to you, based on the incredible crowds that we saw in San Diego and Los Angeles and here today, I think we're going to win California. The Democratic nomination. I think we're going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous, dishonest president in American history. And with your help, we are going to transform this economy and this government and create a system that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Today, I want to welcome you. I want to embrace you and bring you in to a campaign which says, with confidence, with optimism, and with love, that the underlying principles of our government will not be greed, will not be kleptocracy, will not be hatred or lies. The underlying principles of our government will not be racism, will not be sexism, will not be xenophobia, will not be homophobia, and will not be religious bigotry. Brothers and sisters, those ugly anti-American sentiments are going to end, and they're going to end soon. The principles of our government are going to be based on justice. Economic justice.
Come on now.
Racial justice.
Yes.
Social justice.
Yes.
And environmental justice. Our campaign is based on justice, and let me give you some examples of what I mean by justice. When we talk about justice, it means that we will no longer sit idly by and allow this country to move into an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires control the economic and political life of this nation. We say no to oligarchy, yes to democracy. When we talk about justice, we will not allow 3 families in this country to own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. While at the same time, more than 20% of our children live in poverty, we have veterans sleeping out on the street here in San Francisco, and 30 million Americans have no health insurance at all. That is not a just society. Justice means that we will no longer allow 46% of all new income go to the top 1%. Imagine that, 46% of all new income goes to the top 1%, and here in California and in Vermont and all over this country, you got people working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills. You got half of the people in this country, half the workers, who are living paycheck to paycheck. And that means they are scared to death that if the car breaks down, they can't get to work. They can't get to work, they get fired. If they get fired, they can't afford to take care of their kids. We want an economy that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. And when we talk about justice, we're going to end the absurdity of corporate CEOs making 300 times what their employees make. While at the same time, millions of Americans are living in despair and without hope. And if you can believe this, over the last 3 years, life expectancy has gone down in America. Because people have lost hope, people are turning to drugs, they're turning to alcohol, and they're turning to suicide. This campaign is about bringing hope back to all Americans. Justice in America means that we will not tolerate 25 hedge fund managers on Wall Street earning twice as much money as the 140,000 kindergarten teachers in this country. And when we talk about justice and injustice, we are also talking about racial injustice. It is not acceptable to me, in the midst of so much income and wealth inequality, that black families today own 1/10 of the wealth of white families. Not acceptable that the infant mortality rate in black communities is 2.5 times that of white communities. That redlining still exists, and black businesses cannot get the affordable loans that they need, and that the criminal justice system remains significantly racist. So when we talk about justice, we are talking about ending institutional racism in all of its ugly forms. What I want to say to the young people, and it's important that all of us understand, we are living in a moment of exploding technology. We are in a moment where worker productivity is significantly increasing. But despite all of that, everything being equal, the younger generation today, unless we change it, will have a lower standard of living than their parents. Now, why is that taking place? This is the richest country on earth. Worker productivity is up. Our job is to see our younger generation do better than their parents, not worse than their parents. But it is not just a struggle for economic justice that we have got to wage. It is a struggle for political justice as well. What does that mean? What it means is that to me, and I know to you, democracy means one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. And we are not only going to overturn this disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, we're going to end voter suppression in this country. You know, I have run in many, many elections. I've lost some, I've won most, but it has never occurred to me, it has never ever occurred to me to say, well, in my state, I know I'm strong here, I'm weak there. How can I make it as hard as possible for people to vote because they might vote against me? That is political cowardice. And I say to those Republican governors who are trying to keep people from voting, if you don't have the guts to engage in a free and fair election, get the hell out of politics. This country today has one of the lowest voter turnouts. Our country today has one of the lower voter turnouts among major countries on earth. And together we are going to change that. We're going to register people in California, all over this country. We're going to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. You know, it's not complicated. In the United States, if you're a citizen, if you're 18 years of age, you are registered to vote. Let's do that. As many of you may recall, when we first launched our campaign in 2015, very few people took our campaign seriously. I think that's an understatement. On our opening day, we made page 19 of the New York Times. And it went downhill from there. The ideas that we were talking about when we began the campaign, those were ideas that were considered by the political establishment to be radical ideas, to be extreme ideas, and they were rejected by mainstream politicians as well.
Love you, Bernie!
That's right. Matter of fact, we did take on the entire political establishment. So should you. Anyhow, as I was saying, the ideas that we were talking about were ideas that the media and everybody else, well, these ideas are so far out, they're so crazy. Nobody in America supports those ideas.
Now they all do. There are ideas.
Raising, hear this. Listen to this. These are, want to hear some radical ideas? All right, here. All right, I don't want to shock all. Are you all prepared? I don't want mass collapse. Here it is. Radical idea. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage. Oh my God. Imagine how radical that idea is. All right, here's another one. You ready for another one? I don't want you fainting in shock. Some people seated, that's good. All right. Guaranteeing health care to all people as a right. How radical can you get to do in America what every other major country on earth does? Here's another radical idea, that in the richest country in the history of the world, maybe we should not have an infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems that are collapsing. Oh, wow! I mean, how extreme can you be to ask to create a situation where when people turn on their water faucet, the water comes out that is clean and drinkable? But I will stand by that. People are entitled to drinking water. Here's even a more radical idea. Imagine an aggressive effort to combat climate change. Now, this is really, really radical, because you know, really radical, because the scientific community, as many of you know, tells us that we got 12 years before irreparable damage will be done to the planet. So it is so radical to say that maybe we should preserve this planet for our kids and our grandchildren. All right, you ready for another one? Here it is. 4 years ago, we talked about legalizing marijuana. Now, as you and I know, that's an idea that will never happen. Impossible. 4 years ago, we talked about reforming our broken criminal justice and broken immigration system. Now here's something else. Whoa. All right, here's another one. And that is, 4 years ago, we said that maybe candidates should run for office without being dependent on the rich and super PACs. And here is one more. 4 years ago, we said that maybe we should end the power of super delegates at the Democratic National. Well, a funny thing happened over that campaign. In 2016, despite having these radical, far-out, extreme, un-American positions, we won 22 states, over 13 million votes, over 1,700 delegates to the Democratic National Convention, and most importantly, we ended up winning more votes from young people, Black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American, more votes from young people than Trump and Clinton combined. And by the way, those ideas that we talked about 4 years ago that seemed so radical at the time, well, today, virtually all of those ideas are now supported by a majority of the American people. So what does it tell us? It tells us that when the American people stand up, voice their opinions, and fight back, we can change America. And interestingly enough, 4 years ago, when the Democratic and political establishment were telling us how crazy these ideas were, today, Democratic candidates from school board to president are talking about exactly these same issues. So it turns out, brothers and sisters, that the ideas of economic and social and racial and environmental justice are not so radical at all. They are what the American people want. And here's the important point. When I talk about taking on the system, which is what we have got to do, a very powerful system. People who have never had it so good. People have incredible power. What do we mean by that? Let me be very specific. Today, we say to the private health insurance companies, well, that's one way of saying it. I myself would not phrase it exactly that way, but what we say to them is whether they like it or not, the United States is going to join in every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a right. This ain't a complicated issue. Health care is a human right, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you are middle class. We will no longer accept a dysfunctional system which forces us to spend twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. At the same time, our life expectancy is lower and our health care outcomes not as good as many other countries. The goal of healthcare, you want to hear a radical idea? Another one? Goal of healthcare must be to provide quality care to all people, not to make billions in profits for the insurance companies and their CEOs. Here is what a dysfunctional, absurd healthcare system is. In 2017, the top 65 healthcare CEOs made $1.7 billion in compensation. 30 million people have no health insurance. Many of you are underinsured, but the CEO of United Health made over $80 million in compensation. We need a healthcare system which focuses on disease prevention, which makes sure we have doctors where they are needed, nurses where they are needed, dentists where they are needed, and rural healthcare clinics. We don't need to maintain a system which makes insurance companies and their CEOs incredibly rich. And that is why, together, whether the insurance industry likes it or not, we will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And today we say to the drug companies, we will no longer allow you to continue ripping us off and charging us by far the highest prices in the world for the medicine that we need. We are not asking you, we are telling you, you're going to lower prescription drug prices. Yes, we are going to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Nobody who works 40 hours a week should be living in poverty. People should not have to work 2 or 3 jobs to feed their kids. 4 years ago, when we talked about that idea, it was thought to be an impossible dream. We were talking about more than doubling the federal minimum wage. Well, we've made progress over the last 4 years. 5 states, including California, have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I'm happy to tell you that several weeks ago, the U.S. House Committee on Education and Labor reported out of that committee, and I believe it will pass the full House, legislation which will raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. And today, as the wealthiest nation on earth, we say loudly, we are going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and create 15 million good-paying jobs. And today we say to the parents of this country that you and your children deserve quality, affordable child care. The children are our future. We are embarrassed that as a nation we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. We're going to turn that around. We're going to invest in our kids. We're going to invest in universal, affordable child care. And we will not succeed economically as a nation unless we have the best educated workforce in the world. And that means every person in this country, regardless of income, must be able to get all the education they need. And that is why we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And congratulations to the City University here in San Francisco for moving in that direction. How many of you have student debt right now? Raise your hand, please. All right, here's a promise to you. If we can provide $1 trillion to bail out Wall Street, we're either going to end that student debt completely or substantially reduce it. Take that to the bank. But right now in Vermont and in California, there are senior citizens trying to get by on $12,000 or $13,000 a year Social Security. Can you imagine being 90 years of age and trying to get by on $12,000 a year? And the answer is, you can't. In response to that, my Republican colleagues in Congress got a brilliant idea. They want to cut Social Security benefits. Well, we got some bad news for them. Ain't gonna happen. Quite the contrary. We're gonna raise Social Security benefits. Seniors are the people who built this country. They are the people who defended this country. They are the people who raised us. We are not going to leave them out on the streets. Now, I don't have to tell any of you that Donald Trump embarrasses us every day. There's almost not a day that goes by when he doesn't tell one or another outlandish lie. When he doesn't attack, I mean, it's hard for me to believe. I stand up here thinking, why in God's name would a president of the United States attacked John McCain, who died months ago. I mean, what world do you live in? You know, McCain and I disagreed on a lot of issues, but he was a friend of mine. He was an American hero. You don't attack dead heroes when you're the president of the United States. But he embarrasses us in so many ways, but I think maybe most importantly, he embarrasses us in the entire world when he tells us that climate change is a hoax. So this is not just a lie, it is a dangerous statement, because we know what the scientists tell us, is that climate change is real. I don't have to tell the people of California how real climate change is. You know that. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and in this state, in this country, and around the world, it is already causing devastating harm. So today we say to Mr. Trump and his sponsors in the fossil fuel industry, whether you like it or not, we are going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And when we do that, we're going to create millions of good-paying jobs. We're weatherizing our homes, weatherizing our buildings, create an efficient rail system, a modern transportation system. We're going to invest in solar, in wind, in batteries, and in other technologies. We say to the prison industrial complex that whether you like it or not, we are going to bring about in this country long overdue criminal justice reform. In this great nation, we should not have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American, more people in jail than any other country on earth. We say to the American people that instead of demonizing the undocumented immigrants in this country, we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. We're going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. And we are going to develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. We are going to invest in affordable housing. We're going to invest in public education. We are not going to invest in never-ending wars. You've got over 100,000 people who are sleeping out on the streets tonight. You have many people who are paying 40, 50, 60% of their incomes in housing. We are going to build the affordable housing this country desperately needs. We are in the White House. We will move aggressively to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country. Brothers and sisters, let me end by saying this. Clearly, we've got an enormous amount of work in front of us to win the Democratic nomination, to defeat Trump, and to transform this country. But this is what I believe from the bottom of my heart. This is what motivates me every single day. And that is that if we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up by the color of our skin, where we came from, our sexual orientation, our religion. If we stand together as black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, if we stand together and stay focused on how we can improve lives for the vast majority of the people in this country, if we have the courage to take on powerful special interests, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Now remember this, they are the 1%. They have unlimited amounts of money. They have incredible political power. They have lobbyists all over Washington. They spend fantastic amounts of money in campaign contributions, buying and selling politicians. That is what the 1% and the powerful corporations do. Now, I may not be a great mathematician, but this I do know. They are 1%, we are 99%. And if we stand together, we can create a country that will be the envy of the world. It will be a country that our kids and our grandchildren will say, thank you, Mom and Dad, thank you, Grandpa and Grandma, thank you for standing up and fighting for justice. Thank you all very much.
As I was walking, there